Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us at PMM Fest. Before this session starts, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all our sponsors, our partners, you, our festival attendees, and all our speakers too, because without all of you guys, none of this could have gone ahead and be the success that it has been. If you've not already checked it out, do check out our AMA site. Lots of our speakers will be heading over there after their sessions to take your questions and give their answers. So yeah, head over to the AMA site. That's all from me today. Enjoy the session.
Thank you. Hey guys, good morning everyone. My name is Jeevan, and if you are sort of like Rachel wondering how do you say this strange name, it's G1, alphabet G number 1. All right, so in the next few minutes, I hope to entertain and hopefully enlighten some of you guys about storytelling. Now, I'm just kidding here. All of you are product marketing guys. You know how to tell stories. So I'm hoping you can learn. So there are a couple of other goals that I have in there, and they'll come out during my presentation. So first and foremost, something about me. When you look at me, you'll see, hey, who's this strange guy wearing a hoodie out here? I thought it was like first thing you learned in product marketing school, you have to wear a dress shirt, you have to have a sport coat. But okay, fail. There's a story about that as well, so I'll talk about that. So why storytelling? And I had a bunch of things in here, lots of theory around this. I went fairly deep into this. Scratch it all off. I have a couple of stories about this. Then I decided, let me take a hardware form factor and talk about that, how we built a story for that. How we built a story for a complex software feature. Now I'm going to really make you guys fall asleep in there. And then the last but not the least is probably maybe another interesting things that product marketers do webinars. Now let's face it, most of the webinars are probably boring. So we do need storytelling for that. So that's basically what I did. So I'm the head of product marketing for Cisco Meraki. I don't have a lot of slides. I don't have any slides about my company, but essentially, if you're a networking, IT person, then you would essentially end up buying products from Cisco Meraki. Now, people know about Cisco. People don't know about Meraki. Meraki was acquired by Cisco Systems in 2012. We were about $100 million or so per year. Right now, we've grown to more than $2 billion. So incredibly fast, incredibly growing. So I'm the head of product marketing out there. In order to keep it simple, I decided to focus on one product, which is Wi-Fi. I assume most of you are connected to Wi-Fi and checking out your Facebook updates and so on, going on social media, HubSpot, all those things. So I thought, let me just quickly talk about Wi-Fi. And let's just dig into this. So firstly, who am I? I ask myself that question every day, but I thought, let's think about this on a more professional level. This is a little bit about me. So you understand why am I building this particular methodology for storytelling. So I'm an engineer by profession. I'm one of the 2 people that raised hands that was awake in the morning. And then several years of coding. I've got a few patents on the US Patent Office, that is USPTO. I shouldn't have put that acronym there, but so I wasn't kicked out of engineering. I could do it. And then I decided, let me transition into something different. So I did an MBA in marketing and spent over a decade in product management. So one of the things that I wanted to just confirm, if your goal in product marketing at some point is to transition to product management, don't. I mean, it's not as glamorous as it seems. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong. But if you can convert one other product manager to product marketing, I would say my presentation is successful. So product marketing is actually pretty fun. So I am actually the head of product marketing for Meraki, like I said. And let me kind of, dig a little bit deeper. So there was actually unfulfilled desire. When you're in product, when you're in engineering, you're sort of talking bits and bytes, you're getting into the code, you're talking about the hardware, but it wasn't really entertaining, it wasn't fun. I wasn't able to exercise my creative side. So which is like one example of this in my spare times, which is on the weekends or on the flights back and forth from customers or these kinds of events. I do a little bit of sketching. So I drew this picture. So in my spare time, and one of the product code names internally was called Hendrix. Now, hopefully you guys feel this is more Jimi Hendrix than Jesus. Both of them are really awesome, but and then this is the reason for my hoodie. So I actually made this hoodie and gave this to every one of my engineers. So over 1 year ago, so essentially the reason why I think it's successful is most of them still end up wearing this every day to work. That's where I judge my success for. So I see not only my products shipping and deployed at customer sites, my code is great, but essentially my engineers are wearing my hoodie. And my customers are listening to my stories, but that I assume you knew that. So anyway, let's kind of dig a little bit deeper now that you understand a little bit about me. Now you will understand what inspires me. So there are a couple of storytellers that I find incredibly fascinating. One of them is Richard Feynman. Just wanted to recap because I see a lot of young kids in this room. I want to make sure you guys don't lose this. Richard Feynman is insanely awesome. He's basically a physicist who won a Nobel Prize, and essentially he taught lectures at Caltech. Now this guy is so amazing that he was not only a genius, he was able to simplify everything to the simplest degree. You guys have heard this, right? You want to simplify everything so that your grandmom can sort of, understand it. And this is where Richard Feynman started his lectures for undergraduate students. And his lectures were so amazing that actually all the other professors came and sat in his lectures. So that was pretty insane, I found. And, I really like to dig deeper, understand what the product does, understand is this even a competitive differentiator? Is this something that your customers care about? And only then I talk about what the story is. So that's really why I find it fascinating. Malcolm Gladwell is another one which is incredibly, amazing. You guys should definitely listen to him. He is a better speaker than I am, and a fascinating guy as well. But his books are awesome. Everything that he talks about, the stories are incredibly simple, but if you sort of, just read a single chapter of it, you would almost feel like this guy has done a PhD thesis behind this particular topic. There's pretty amazing, ability to tell stories. Or maybe he fakes it really well. Either of them works. So I think now comes why storytelling. So this part I thought was interesting because I'll give you a couple of examples what engineers sort of pass on to me, and sort of, then I have to sort of manage what to do with it. But first and foremost, why is storytelling important? So I thought of like putting up pictures of the brain, the left brain, right brain, all the details of it, what's going on in there. And I said, you guys know the theory, you guys know storytelling. Why am I boring you with that? But, ever since the beginning of time, people have always loved to tell stories. I mean, people have loved to draw pictures, people have loved to tell small stories, sit around the fireplace and sort of, just entertain everybody, just inform everyone. Let's kind of, use a non-technical example. Does anybody remember who made this particular commercial? Okay, good. So plenty of you guys, but what I found was this is like one of the best examples of why storytelling is important. So for some of the people in the audience, this is a time when, you had a very lopsided game. You had, this advertisement was aired 1.5 minutes before the end of this particular game. And there were several competing advertisements with like David Beckham sort of taking off most of his clothes and so on and so forth. So there were like many reasons not to remember this. But this was, in the ad meter, the most popular advertisement. And really the answer around this one, and everybody seems to know this, one of the reasons for this one is really two things, oxytocin and cortisone. I mean, these are the only two technical terms I'm going to use. When Julie showed that picture of the cute dog, there was oxytocin that got released. That's like so cute, odd moment, right? I mean, so the same thing happened in this one, but the first thing was cortisol. So this is really, for those who haven't seen this advertisement, please do. This is called Puppy Love. What was really happening is it's a farm and you sort of see this beautiful, cute little puppy who's friends with this Clydesdale horse. And essentially what ends up happening is because the puppy is going to be adopted, So it goes away, and then essentially the horse keeps following the puppy, and then ultimately the puppy keeps coming back to each other. So it's like such an awe moment. It is so amazing that at the end of the day, despite all the other competing ads, you remember it. Now, of course, it's a different thing that I assume none of these guys consume Budweiser, but I think the bottom line continues to remain. Remember, you're trying to get some tension into the customers, some tension and stress into the partners that listen to your story, and then you want to sort of have almost an emotional bonding with your product. That's really what is the ultimate thing that I want to achieve. From a technology standpoint, I'm sure all of you have seen the 1984 advertisement from Apple. This is where think different. Those are, of course, super well advertised. But I thought, sort of, let me just talk about this as a story. Now let's talk about a little bit. Now I'm, of course, the head of product marketing, and just to give you a background, we've got at least 7 different product lines, and let's say a few hundred engineers. So you can imagine at any given point, when we have a launch, there are about 25 things that come and attack me. So I have to figure out, does this make sense, right? I mean, is this a story worth telling? Or is this just, yeah, fine, you created a new feature, let me put a blog out. Oh my God, that is success. But let's kind of, that's what I thought, let's take a step back and figure out, is this a story worth telling? So every single story needs these 3 key characters to be understood. The first one is the customer. That's your victim, of course. End of the day, you want to make sure your customer likes your product. They want to buy it. It's very important to differentiate and distinguish who is the customer. The role, the title is really important. Now, just to give you an idea, I mean, everybody here knows what's a Wi-Fi access point, right? In your houses, you call it a router. If you went to Starbucks out here, you're connected to a Cisco Meraki Wi-Fi. If you went to Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, you were connected to our Wi-Fi, and so on. But just to give you an idea, the customer could be the IT guy who's actually doing the deployment. The customer could be your VP who actually, CTO who opened up the purse to actually buy your product line. It could be the partner who is actually going and installing it. So who are you trying to tell the story to? Very, very, very important to keep that in mind. The second part of it is the product. Of course, your product is the one that solves all problems. Remember, you have to create attention first, but then you have the product, which is the solution. And then last but not the least is your competition, which is a villain, of course. So every time you are thrown, this new whiz-bang, feature from your engineering team, from your product management, remember, take a step back and write these down. So once you know this, then and only then you should proceed. But let's kind of, walk through 2 examples of the methodology that I follow. Like I said, everybody wants to talk about, look at my cool feature and what it does. And it's almost like nobody cares. The first one is, what are the benefits? And once you talk about the benefits, who are they for? Back to what I said, is it the cheapest? Then only your, the people that buy it actually care about it. If it is the fastest, maybe your IT people care about it and your end users care about it. And then, is it a differentiator or is it a catch-up feature? So that determines how much time do any of you guys spend on this. So I assume as product marketing people, we have to follow this particular bare minimum thing. And then, of course, when you come up with benefits, you need to understand what the product does. So that's almost a given. So that's why, to me, it's like, I have an ability to understand what the product does, what are the benefits, who are the customers and differentiators. So really, we work in partnership with product management. So all this sounds great, right? I mean, but how does this look in action? So let's take a look at 2 examples. So first, a story about a form factor. So we were about to launch Wi-Fi access points. And what was different about these particular ones is this is going to be the fastest and the best, and with a changed form factor. Now, a different form factor is like fascinating to you, and you're going to be in love with it. But for customers, it's incredibly stressful, event. Think about this. If you were to go up and sort of change the particular chandelier and install something else, you have to go up, you have to unmount this thing, you have to take it out, and then you have to climb up a ladder, you have to mount a different mounting bracket, then you install your chandelier or your access point. This is very painful. It might be beautiful. You are in absolute love with it. So you have to tell a story. Without that, it's going to be a struggle. So let's kind of walk you through this. So first and foremost, here are some access points from our competition. One thing you might notice, they all look white. I've tried pretty hard to take their logos out. We don't worry about our competitors here. But just to give you an idea, this is what our customers see from the competition. They are white squares, right? Because it's easy to make. So now you sort of start digging into how do you stand out from a sea of squares, right? So when you look up in the ceiling, right? I mean, how do you sort of stand out? So first thing is, what do we want to convey? We wanted to convey two messages. We wanted to talk about our new access points needed to have a function and a form. The function was, this is the fastest access points. And the form was, they were going to be the best. Premium, expensive, distinct, different, right? So fast and best. So when you think about speed, what's the first thing that sort of comes to mind? Hopefully some of you guys thought about race car. So okay, back to my creativity. You guys can understand there was a certain person in my company that did this in their spare time. So certain sketches got sort of wild, as you can imagine, and out of control. I even put in the back the nice logo and drew this bridge and everything. But anyway, it's but this was meant to be a cheesy sort of cartoon. Ultimately, what ended up happening is we built two new access points that sort of modeled after this. It sort of looked like these. So they're, of course, as you can imagine, the fastest and the wildest growing access points in our product history. So, of course, which is why I'm telling this story. We won't get into any of those numbers. None of you guys care about that. This is, there are two new access points we introduced and so on. So it's fine for me to tell a story, and I even subjected my sales engineers to my cute cartoon, cheesy cartoon of the car access point. But what's actually even more fascinating, for telling the story, is essentially make others tell your story. So we actually ended up, we were about to do a big launch, and for the launch, I decided to include one of our customers. And that's actually McLaren. So if you guys know about race cars, McLaren is a pretty well-known brand. So as you can think about this, what was I doing? We were announcing a Wi-Fi 6, the fastest access point ever. And for telling that story, we wanted it to be about speed. When you think about need for speed, we threw in sort of that particular cartoon, but which has not made its way to anybody outside of Cisco Meraki and sales team. But now all of you friends, PMM friends, have seen this, but this is what our customers saw. And then my buddy Edward, he actually talked about this. So if you guys Google for this, you can definitely see Edward talk about our particular access points. And of course, he's used these. Now, if any of you guys are technical enough and sort of say, wow, nice, this is a good story, but what does a racing car company actually need to do with high-speed Wi-Fi? So if any of you guys think about this, second step. So you guys can think about this. So imagine there is a race going on right now. Within one day, there is 1.5 terabytes of data that actually transmits. And while the race is occurring, imagine all of you guys may be engineers that are sitting in one room, and there's one of you who's actually constantly communicating with the driver, saying, I see this particular sensor in your car, it's actually low, so you should pull over. I see this is a problem, so you should take a pit stop after a certain time. So this is the kind of things that are happening. And these are the kinds of stories, it's better coming in from a customer. So we talked about hardware and platform. Now let me kind of give you an example of software. So to tell stories, think about benefits, but not the features. If I wanted to bore you to death, I could have said, this particular technology within the Wi-Fi 6 access points has 8 by 8. It has OFDMA. It has so many other whiz-bangs and acronyms that none of you will understand, care about, remember. But the one thing you might remember is, hey, it was the McLaren racing car guy who actually talked about fast access points. So let's think about this. Now, this is just to give you a second to absorb this slide. I'm going to have a quiz on this later. No, I'm just kidding. But these are the typical things that my engineering throws at me. And given my somewhat complicated background of engineering and product management, I have no problem with this. This is totally cool slide. But now let's move on to this. It has details about a bunch of things, how the feature is implemented, different kinds of details from IEEE standard, and so on. So then I decided, again, what do we want to convey? What's your plot? The benefits, to whom, and the differentiator. So everything is quite different in this one versus the hardware platform. So first and foremost, we started looking at the slide again, and I decided to highlight a few things that sort of make sense. So I only cared about the benefits. To help conserve power, help conserve battery life, reduce contention, and increase the airtime efficiency, and then up to 67% lower power consumption. Aha. So I got exactly the keywords that I was looking for. Who are the benefits? What are the benefits? How much? Who are they for? So with this, again, you guys remember I draw cartoons, but sometimes I don't have time. So then I do the second best thing, which is like Google search for images. Now these are, again, remember, they don't go out into the world. You are the only guys that are subjected to my cartoons and my Google searches. So I didn't worry too much about copyright infringement out here. But first and foremost, I built a cartoon. I flew in here from San Francisco. So essentially, I was waking up every hour on the hour. I'm going to have an amazing time today and presentation. Is it time for me to wake up yet? 11 p.m. No. 12 p.m. No. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Finally 6 a.m. Right? I wake up. Simple cartoon that tells you about wake up time, target wake time. So for one device, you have an individual alarm clock. And then sort of, what I did, I got more creative. I got like a cartoon of a rooster that's waking you up. So I said, there are 3 different presenters, right? There's Julie, Alex, and myself. Julie is presenting first, so let's make her wake up at 4 a.m. and Alex at 5 a.m. and me at 6 a.m., right? So I like to sleep. But basically, you can actually see the benefit of this. You are waking different people up at different time. And therefore, each of us, can continue to sleep, get our beauty rest. Right? So this is the simple cartoons that I subjected my sales team to. And of course, in the world of TikTok videos of 30 seconds or less, you can definitely, start understanding once you have cartoons like these, your sales guys might even pay attention to your stories. So that's basically sort of, what I did. So once I did this, then sort of I transitioned on to getting our design team engaged, which is like, they actually make this public consumable. And then the end story we told our customers was essentially a simple cartoon like this. As you can see, this form factor is of the access point. We showed 2 different icons of smartphones, and then we showed the battery life. And at the end of the day, we used the term target wake time. We said 67% battery life. So which means that if you're carrying an iPhone around, you don't have to charge it twice a day. You can conserve your battery 67% of the time. This is a benefit of this particular capability. So that's basically an example of software. Now I thought, I sort of, transitioned just for a bonus. I thought, let me add one more thing. And I was going to say, Julie, you stole my picture of, Tom Cruise with the Mission Impossible. But, let me kind of, talk a little bit about the other one, right? The most biggest thing that you can think about, most webinars are boring, except for us, our families, and if you will, our engineers, and maybe our competitors, right? And some customers that we get leads. No, I'm just kidding. But the idea around this is blah, blah, blah. It's like about products, features, so on and so forth. If you remember, I said at the beginning, Cisco Meraki is about networking products. Everybody has networking products. What's the differentiation for Cisco Meraki? It's really simplicity. Everybody has 50 slides that talk about simplicity. Here is how my product is simple. What we do is slightly different, and I'm using this example slightly differently. We decided to make webinars interactive. So essentially, if you guys watch Netflix Bandersnatch, what we ended up doing was create a new webinar that sort of says it's a mission impossible. Our product marketing manager, who looks slightly less handsome maybe than Tom Cruise, is going to set up a wireless LAN, and he's going to set up VLAN, configure a port, configure your switch, and you guys can actually go ahead and vote for it in real time. So anybody that joins in, you can actually make your product marketing manager to install, to configure, to set up your network, and to change things. Now, this, of course, takes a while to do. The setting up takes a long time, so you definitely need to partner or be on the case of your digital marketing people to make sure that you get the right amount of users, whether it's a few thousands, and you can definitely send it to Dharmesha. I think he has phenomenal following, or you could sort of, find your own people to send this out. You should definitely make sure to do this. But this is one example of this that I thought, was pretty fascinating. We got pretty much the highest number of views per webinar that we had with this kind of concept, and it was incredibly hard. It took a couple months to actually set it up and get it right and make sure it is foolproof, because as you can imagine, with a demo gods, right? I mean, it'll go wrong while you're about to do a demo, right? And doing a demo with a few thousand customers online could be even more exciting. So those are the kinds of things that sort of, I wanted to leave you with. Remember the principles, and hopefully you had a fun time.